Hello everyone, it's live stream time, and today we're going to be covering clouds with the fantasy world style. That means how they're formed, where they're formed, what tools to use to replicate it within the editor, and so much more. Of course, as always, if you want to follow along on today's live stream, clone and edit this map. I've included that in the chat. I've also included a companion guide, which is basically a visual guide that's meant to go along with this. It's basically going to contain an overview of what we covered in the stream. Not every live stream will have a companion guide, but only when it's applicable, okay? Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll find that link in the video chat, or I'm sorry, not the chat, in the video description. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, as always, whenever you are trying to implement something or replicate something within Inkarnate, you need to know a little bit about it. So let's talk about how clouds are formed, and perhaps that will give us an inkling on where to start, what tools to use, etc. Okay, so let's start there. And I made this little graph right here that kind of, or this little chart that kind of explains how clouds are formed. The sun is basically going to heat up water, and by water, I mean the ocean, lakes, rivers, swamp, water on the ground. It could be rain that's accumulated on the ground, dew. All of that is going to evaporate with the sun's rays, and then it goes up, and that water vapor and warm air rises. As it rises, it condenses into clouds. Okay, so that's how clouds are formed. Now, what's the big takeaway from this? It's where you should start placing your clouds first. And that is, of course, near bodies of water. And what is the largest bodies of water on any world map? It's generally an ocean and the seas, right? So it's a great place to kind of start when you want to start putting down your clouds. Now, there's a lot of approaches to making clouds, and it's up to you. When I usually use clouds, there are three methods that I might use. The quickest and the simplest method to add clouds to your ocean is to use a texture, or I'm sorry, use a filter. And there is this fog filter, and it works great. It's a texture, and it doesn't necessarily 100% look like clouds. It's a little wispy, but it does work as a one-click solution in comparison to using a whole bunch of cloud stamps or painting it with the top layer. So filters are your best friends. Use those. Another benefit to using a filter here in this instance is that your oceans are generally the most negative space. And when I mean negative space, I mean that there's nothing going on in the ocean, and that can make it seem kind of barren. So the way to avoid that is to throw out clouds. So it can work as a frame as well. And that really just depends on you and how much landmass, how much in positive space, that's conversely to the negative space. That means action going on, those land masses. So you can use it as a frame. That's very, very helpful. Now, if you don't want to use a filter, that's perfectly fine. You can use stamps as well. If we go click the stamp tool right here, and then we click the catalog, and what you can do once it opens up is to click the Inkarnate tag. And what the Inkarnate tag does in that left panel is it opens up the art to every single style. Now, this is a pro feature, so it won't work if you have the free version. So you have the pro version, you click the Inkarnate tag, and it's going to load all the art. And what I like to do is go up to that search field at the top of the catalog and just type in clouds or cloud and just press enter. And all the clouds from all the different styles are going to show up here. So you obviously have a lot of options to choose from when putting down clouds. Let's just stick with this one right here. This was from Watercolor Cities. There is the Fantasy World, which is the style we're working with, but they have a baked-in shadow. And if you want to use clouds that have the baked-in shadow, that's fine. I myself don't prefer that, so I'm going to just use these clouds right here. And what I recommend is absolutely turning off the random, because the clouds are going to be more horizontal, or at least I like them to be that way. And I'll leave random on, and I recommend that you turn the opacity down. You see what happens if you turn the opacity all the way up to 1 or 100, it's going to be just pure white. And that might look kind of odd, right? So just bring the opacity down a little bit on the stamp. And that way, when they stack on top of each other, the clouds are gonna be a little bit more and more white with every cloud that you put on top. So it's a nice layering system that you can use, okay? And of course, if you're gonna do big swath areas, I totally recommend that you go down to the advanced settings, scroll down, go to placement and click multiple. This will allow you to click, hold, and drag multiple clouds on the screen, okay? Now, one other thing that I want to mention is that besides using stamps, you can also use the top layer, okay? If you go to that brush tool and click top, you'll notice that I can paint on top of everything. So let's just choose this white texture right here for now, and I'm just gonna paint across like this. And what you'll notice is that it's on top of everything, and that includes filters, okay? So let's go ahead and just click erase, and you can click fill and it will erase everything on that top layer. Now, what's really great about using the fill or the top brush is that you can create a fog of war. Clouds work great for a fog of war. So if I go ahead and I select the texture that I want, if I click this, open it up, I need to pick a texture that I want to pick. I'm freezing up a little bit here. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Click back here. Okay, so we want to click the texture of your choice. I'm just going to use this one. It works fine, but you could choose any texture you want. Just click fill. Okay, now go to erase. And then what you can do is if you players want to start in a certain location, just erase like this, and you'll be able to erase certain areas on the map. This way it acts as a fog of war, because maybe you don't want your players to see the entire area or see the entire map. You just want to see a region. So using the top layer, fill, and then click erase, and that way it'll act as a fog of war, which technically looks like clouds. So really, really great way to do that. So now I'm just going to click erase and then click fill, and it will erase everything. So that's really the best routes. There are three ways really. It's going to be top layer, you can use stamps, or you can use a filter. It's up to you. The beauty of Inkarnate is that it gives you multiple options and tools to work with, and it's really just up to you, okay? Now that we know that clouds start in the ocean, the next step is you want to move your clouds inward. Lots of cloud formation is formed in the ocean and it moves inward. So coastlines are another great place to put your clouds, right? Because it's where land meets water, right? And so it's a great place to put down clouds. Just make sure that you scale them down a little bit, and then you can just click here and there along that ledge to go ahead and just add clouds along your coastlines, and feel free to just select them and resize them. Cool trick, if you click one cloud, select all from this set, it will select all the clouds from the set. Let me do that one more time. Select all from this set. It looks like it's not selecting them all. You can just drag and click like this, and you can just change the size to be whatever size you want, okay? But coastlines are a great place. Just remember, start in your oceans and move inland. Now, other great places to put your clouds are going to be like bodies of water, like rivers. Like you see a river here, there's a large lake here, a lake here. If you have swampland, that's another great place to put clouds. Just think of it this way. Water is necessary for cloud formation. So wherever there is water, both on the land or in the ocean, you're going to find cloud formations, okay? Now, another great thing that you can do with helping with clouds is to have clouds be over your mountain ranges. Mountains are so large, so huge, so gargantuan that they create their own weather. Cloud formation occurs on top of mountains or at the top of mountains. So if I click terrain, I'll show you a really cool trick on how to put clouds on your mountain ranges without having to use a stamp, textures, or using a filter, and that is to use your object shadows. So if I want, I could click maybe a couple of these mountains here. So I'll just select a whole bunch of mountains. Let's just do this section right here. I'm going to click all these mountains right here. And then I'm going to go to your shadows. Right now, there are no shadows. If I go to custom object shadow, I'm going to click shadow options. I'm going to go ahead and move this to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. So click that little shadow icon, and I'm going to change the shadow to white. Step 1, let's increase the blur so it's quite large. And then vertical offset, allow the shadow to go above. And don't go too far, because what you're doing is some of the object shadows are going to be in front of some of the mountains and going to be behind some of the mountains. And that creates this layered effect. Okay. Now just know that when you have a lot of object shadows, guess what? That's going to cause a little bit of lag. So I recommend that you operate in 2K editor resolution when you have this many object shadows. Now you can of course also create thunderstorms. Let's say that you have, let's go ahead and turn this off for right now. So that way we're not going to cause any lag. Turn that off. Let's go find our volcano. I do believe there's a volcano in here. There is a beautiful volcano right here, and we can create an awesome object shadow that's going to look like a thunderstorm, because when you have volcanic eruptions, when you have a lot of static electricity, and so you can create a kind of a cumulonimbus or a cumulo, I forgot the name of the cloud, but you can do the same thing. Instead of having the object shadow being white, you can have it be black and then add lightning and light sources. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to pick custom object shadow. I want it to be black. That works great. Then I'm going to go again, select this. Let's move it to the side so you can see it. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and push that cloud up like we did before. Let's just push it up, up, up. There we go. And then we'll keep going up a little bit further. We want it to be above. So I'll just keep going up a little bit more. There you go. There's your storm cloud. You can increase the intensity to make it darker or to make it not quite as intense. It's really up to you on how you want to go about that. So I can increase the size. Let's make it so it's noticeable. So there's a nice black kind of cloud there. And then what's really cool is that you can use the path tool, or you could use an electricity or lightning stamp from the fantasy battle map style. So what I'll do is I'll open up that catalog. And then again, you want to have Inkarnate selected, so that way you see everything. And I can type in lightning. Oopsie, a little bit of lag there. Kind of caused that not to work. Let's just type in light. Okay. And you'll be able to scroll through, and there should be a stamp called lightning, but you can use other ones as well. So if I want, I could throw down this stamp. Let's bring the size way down. And I may even want to change the, I might want to change the color of that stamp. So I'll bring it all the way up, and you can change the hue of a stamp. That's under color options, under advanced settings. So if you don't see it, click that, and there you are. Let's go through the various colors. I'm going to change the hue. I think yellow is a good choice. Doesn't have to be blue. And just scale it down. Let's bring it down to 10. This is the smallest size. And if it's too big, you can simply scale it down by grabbing one of those white corners there and just scale it down. Okay. Now this is going way below kind of the minimum, which is 10. And if you feel it's too blurry, you can't really see it that well, that's okay. You can totally use paths to do that as well. So let's go over how to do kind of a lightning. If you want to just go ahead and just click that color that you want it to be. And then we'll go ahead and bring the width down to a small size. And whatever I'm doing, I always like to just apply it just to see what it looks like. And I'll bring the width way, way, way down. Way too big. Let's bring it way down. I'd say about that looks great. And then you can go ahead and just put little lightning like this. Like that if you want. And of course you can change the blend mode. You can change the color. That's the beauty of the paths. You can give it a shadow to make it look like there's more light. You could put a light source on top of it. It's up to you. So storms, totally doable. If you're using a stamp, just change the stamp, the cloud stamp, to black. And the way that you go about doing that is you just select a cloud like this. And then before you place it, go to color, bring the brightness all the way down. And there you go. Now you have a black cloud. Okay. Now let's say that if you wanted to have more unique clouds, like maybe there's a clouds that are purple or pink or whatever it is that you want, supernatural, fey, whatever it might be. If you type cloud back in again, there is a nice green cloud. Let's go ahead and close this and we'll do it again. Just one moment. And we'll type in cloud again. Let's type it in, cloud. Oop, not loud. There's a green cloud right here for Ghost Town, and you can change the hue of this to whatever you want. So if I can just go to hue and I can change it blue, purple, whatever it is I want it to be, okay? So if you're wanting a different colored clouds, totally acceptable. Look for that green cloud. It's in the Ghost Cities pack in the watercolor city style, okay? All right. Let's keep going. We have a couple more things to cover. Now, for those of you who want a more complex or advanced system of weather, that's perfectly okay. You can totally do that, but there's a caveat to that. Just know that the more complex systems that you incorporate into your map, the harder it is to actually replicate it in the map. It's more work for you as a DM or as a writer or even as a kind of a map creator for if you're doing private contract work, you're trying to sell your maps to people. If you're going to do that, just know that it's more work. I understand the kind of the compulsion to want to add a lot of complex systems onto your map. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just know it's going to be more work for you. That's why I recommend a more simplified system so that way it's not more work for you. It's very unlikely that your players are going to walk around and look at a cloud and say, that's not an alto cumulus, that's a cirrus cloud. Unless you're going to have clouds in your campaign that play some important role, maybe you're flying up to the clouds with your players in an airship, then you might want to put more time. For those of you who are really into that, I did create a guide on here, which I'm not going to go over in depth, but I created a little guide that kind of creates the basic clouds: cumulus, cumulonimbus, stratus, altocumulus, cirrus, and altostratus. There's way more clouds than that. I'm just kind of covering the basics. So if you are really into clouds, that's your big nerdy thing, and there's nothing wrong with that because I love clouds too. Perhaps this little cloud guide can kind of help you on how to kind of replicate these types of clouds, okay? That's really up to you as the DM or the map creator, okay? Now, I had mentioned that there might be a POI, which is a point of interest. It's always good to be able to create a point of interest that's going to be in the clouds. So I'll zoom in and I'll just show you here that I made a point of interest using clouds and a front-facing or flat icon image from Fantasy World. Now, you'll notice that I'm using a particular cloud here from the parchment style. You'll notice that there's a baked-in cloud. Now, some people really might like this cloud over the other types of clouds, but you don't want to use it because it has a baked-in shadow. Don't worry about that. If you take the normal blend mode and switch it to lighten, it will remove that shadow. Okay, notice that the shadow is gone. If I take it back to normal, there's the shadow again. So a trick to get rid of baked-in shadows for clouds, at least, is to use the lighten blend mode. That's how I was able to remove the built-in shadow with those clouds. Because I personally, these are my favorite cloud stamps, but I just don't care for the baked-in shadows. I know a lot of people might feel the same. So that is how you deal with baked-in shadows for clouds, the lighten blend mode. It sometimes works for other stamps as well, but it really depends on what's behind them. So just experiment, see what works for you, okay? All right, so I think that's really it. Go ahead and check out that types of clouds. If you really are interested in that cloud guide that has the different types of clouds, feel free to clone and edit this map. Remember, I provided that link in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll find it in the video description. That is it. So now I just want to real quickly mention what's going on next week. We're going to be starting a new series where we turn fantasy regional maps into battle maps. And I'm going to be taking you through a process. For a lot of people, it's difficult to figure out where to start when you're putting down your battle maps. And so, because not everyone is an architect, not everyone has spatial awareness. When you're new to this, it can be complex and seem like it's a real challenge, a real Herculean labor. We're going to totally fix that. This style is going to help you with quickly developing a process that speeds up your map making and makes it look better. Okay? All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. That is it for this stream. If you have any suggestions for future streams, we totally do have a link for that. Go check that on our Discord. If you haven't joined our Discord, please do. There are so many helpful mentors there who are willing to help, and that includes myself. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next week when we do our new series. Please stay safe and healthy and merry map making. Auf Wiedersehen, everybody.